My name is Alma Soler. I'm the landscape architect with Hood Design Studio, leading the design of what is called Hilltop Park. You are probably very familiar with the site. We're on top, quite literally, of Yerba Buena Island. So we are, we have the privilege of incredible bay views. And so when the museum and the ADGS, approach us to propose some locations for bringing a piece of the Port Chicago story into the new park. We started thinking about how we can find a location that can begin to allow the site to be linked to the story. And so I'll show you just really quickly where we are with the potential location for exhibit panels that will be receiving some of the information and amazing pieces of the story that Kelly described. So Hilltop Park is right in the middle of the San Francisco Bay, obviously. A little kind of close-up shot here on the corner. You can kind of see Hilltop Park is actually composed of two sites. We call it West Hilltop and East Hilltop. And the one on the West Hilltop side, you can see a historic image on the top. There's a rectangular water tank. If you drive on the Bay Bridge, you can kind of see it even today. Part of the concept of this park is to preserve some of these elements. This water tank was built in the 1920s. And so it's been in the island for many, many years. So we're going to preserve pieces of it, and it'll become like an observation platform to get vantage views from there. Walt will explain also this small footprint here, labeled as 97, is presumably the location of the actual Port Chicago trial. So there's a lot of significance to this particular event here and an opportunity to link that. So as I show you the way that we're thinking of the exhibition or the exhibit panels is that we're looking at locate them in a way that when you're on top of this island, you can kind of have this vantage point to conceptually connect all the way to Port Chicago and Mare Island. You cannot really see Port Chicago from there, but I think the direction is what we're trying to suggest with this location. This is the overview of the park as it is designed and under construction currently. So the area that we're looking at is this one I was mentioning is called Hilltop Park West, and that rectangular shape that you see there is a former tank that is being, basically we're gonna remove the lid and create a new paving area where people can walk and then have these amazing views. So if we overlay a little bit the images of the historic elements that we're preserving, the tank is staying there. And in that little circle area that I have here, that's where we want to locate those panels in order to conceptually make that connection with where the sites that we're talking about will be located and are located in the distance. And then the Port Chicago Trial Room, Building 97 is no longer in existence. And so there's an opportunity here to maybe remember something through a series of traces or something. But right now, the main elements that we have been looking into are these two small moments. The tank itself, as it sits above this little hill, the only way to access it is through this ramp that you see here on this view. There's a long, long ramp that zigzags through. It actually cuts through the tank itself and then turns here to enter to the top area that is a flat paved surface. So the opportunity that we see here is maybe have a little tiny moment to pause in the middle of that trek and potentially make some memento about Building 97. And then as people get on the top, they'll have the panels with a little bit more description. You can see here on this plan that we're angling them. So in a way, again, trying to sort of make a connection to that long view towards Port Chicago. So if you're coming up through that ramp that I was mentioning, this is one thought about having just a simple element that will have maybe some description or just a label that will begin to connect the story of the trial itself on site. But the main elements that we're proposing here as part of the park, this is once you arrive, you can see on this little small image here, once you walk through that whole entire path, you arrive to this open tank. Now there's going to be some new trees planted in there. And then on the far end, again, you're invited. I mean, the instinct from everybody coming to here will be to kind of walk towards the edge because you get to see the views. And there is where we want to place this elements. We're thinking right now of some sturdy materials that speak to the historic element of being in this existing tank, and also allow for different panels that can be sort of placed on these four stands, let's say. And those can actually be fixed, or they can even change over time. I mean, as Kelly was saying, the story is not fully completed today. There's more things, hopefully, that, there are more changes that may come in the future. So the idea is that this exhibit would allow for some flexibility like that. So the image on the right shows an example of something of that kind, where there's an existing structure, a metal, heavy, sturdy material, and then the panels are affixed to it, and those can be at some point replaced if needed. The way that we're trying to place them, these granulations that you see on the wall of the tank, they are existing. The way that the tank works structurally is, and inside of it is almost like a series of pillars that hold these walls that have held this big chunk of water for many years. So when we cut the lid, those ins and outs will be exposed. So those small alcoves are basically what we're using to take advantage of and place those elements in an angle. And what is interesting is that the previous view, we're seeing them in the front coming from the ramp. This other view allows us to represent how maybe the panels have a second in the sort of fin side. We can then describe some of these important moments or ways to organize the story. So it has like a two-sided thing, and it still allows for people to get very close to the edge as is intended and have the views that they want to have, but at the same time turn right and maybe learn some of these dramatic pieces of our story. So in general, currently the design is still in progress. I mean, we're presenting here today to sort of see if there are any comments or questions about it. In general, each of these panels gives a bit of a almost 4x4 square footage of capacity to hold sort of content, curated content. It could be images, it could be words, but the main thing is that we want to organize it, or is suggested to probably be organized into these four themes or eras. And I think this is a little bit matching what Kelly was describing. There's a potentially to describe a bit the background and how the disaster actually took place. Then there's an opportunity to describe some of the Navy's response, a bit of, describe a little bit this context of discrimination that existed. Then there's opportunity on the third panel to talk about the mutiny and the trial itself. And then more importantly, on the fourth panel, talk about the resonance, all the implications. And this is that panel I was saying, maybe there's hopefully more positive outcomes that come out of all the disaster that took place, but that's the one that could potentially change in the future if the 50 are pardoned completely. So this is basically all the materials for the site and where we are with trying to begin to create a space for this important story to be told in this particular location.
Okay. Thank you, Alma. And then Walt, did you want to add final words?